The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the alien doctor that has finally learned that human love is the greatest weapon of all. That is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yep.
Speaking of alien doctor, I mean, we get right into this movie. Like, okay, Assignment Terror, or what is it? It's a German movie, Dracula Jekt Frankenstein. Is that it?
Yeah. It's I think in Spain it was Los Monstruos del Terror, or the Monsters of Terror,
Which,
and then
most accurate title.
Yeah. And then, in German, Dracula versus Frankenstein is the English translation.
Right, but we've got, as you said, Assignment Terror.
Yeah, I think that's the most common title it's known as, like, in the English-speaking world.
Fair enough. And this is a sequel.
Yes. Yeah, so we've got a return of our Waldemar Daninsky.
Paul Naschy, baby.
Yeah.
He's my new hero.
Yeah, he's such an interesting character, and we were just talking before the recording. I think this is the only other one of his we'll talk about here because it's the only Frankenstein one. But I'm definitely like feeling the desire to check out more of his werewolf movies because he's just got a really he's similar to Lon Chaney, but it's like filtered through like the lens of like Spanish culture in a way that is really unique and interesting.
That it is. I mean, I think it's interesting that I would say he's more heroic, at least his Wolfman form is more heroic than Lon Chaney Jr.'s Wolfman. Like, that's pure monster, whereas this one is monster, but also it goes more for the bigger monsters than anything else. I don't know. There's something about this character of Waldemar Daninsky, that when he first showed up, as we spoke with the ladies at Silver Scream, he seemed villainous. Mm-hmm. But we quickly learned he was not. He is a hero.
Yeah, and it's with Lon Chaney, or, with Larry Talbot, we should say, he's just so defeatist. Right. Every movie with him, revolves around him wanting to be cured, or if he can't be cured, to die. And Daninsky definitely seems like he wants to be cured, or at least protect, doesn't want to hurt people. But more than that, he wants to use his situation to be helpful wherever he can.
Right. Which that's a more all right, Waldemar Daninsky is better than Larry Talbot. Just period. Because he is using his situation to make things better where he can. Of course, he obviously knows he's going to make them bad whenever the full moon strikes. But, he tries.
Yes,
versus
exactly.
Just please shoot me.
Yeah, versus jumping off of a cliff.
Right. Yeah. All right, so let's get into this. We immediately start in media res, effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've got, what was it? Mileva Karstein is someone who has died in an automobile accident, and they're basically going to use her body.
Right. And then Kyrian, I forget his last name, is the guy who died.
Werner.
Yes. And then we've got our sort of main character here, Dr. Odo Warnoff.
Right.
We don't get his name for a while, but yeah, like you said, I kind of had to rewind this a couple of times at the beginning because it was you get dropped right into the middle, and I was like, what is happening?
Right.
What's going on?
The plot is we're going to exploit these human superstitions and frailties to conquer their planet because we're aliens.
Yeah, which I think this is a rare alien-related movie that we've dealt with. That those streams don't cross very often, but
you would think they would, though.
Yeah, I feel like in kaiju movies, like about half of them aliens show up and get in the mix, but
so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, this definitely feels similar to, what is it, the creature from Planet X, the kaiju movie, where they like kidnap Godzilla and Rodan and try to turn them and use them to take over the world.
Yeah, is that where we get Mecha Godzilla, or is that?
I think that the sequel to that one is where they like come back and then you get Mecha Godzilla. But yeah, in this case, it's cool because like we have this guy, and the fun thing. So Dr. Odo Warnoff, he's played by the main alien from The Day the Earth Stood Still. So like right away, people watching this are going to be like, "Oh, I know that guy. He's an alien." Like they're going to make that connection. And he's like talking on a TV screen to. So the deal is these aliens can take over human bodies, like dead bodies, and look like humans when they're walking around on Earth. But he's like talking back to the homeworld on this like TV screen, and I guess on their planet they're just like psychedelic swirls.
Right.
There's not really any kind of body. That's just like it looks like a blacklight poster or something, basically.
Right, it's an acid trip, is what it is, a living acid trip. Which that would be a cool take. And also, why do they have to be in human form? I mean, I guess to interact with us, but why would they just like wear their human suits around? Why wouldn't they just be like psychedelic swirls of color whenever they could?
Yeah, I mean, I think the real answer is it would be hard to do the special effects, so we could just make them look like people. But
yeah, pretty much.
Plot-wise, I don't know what the answer would be.
Right. We didn't want to hire an extra actor, and we didn't want to just do special effects, so this. Here we go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, I love it.
He said, like, step one of the plan is they're going to go to a carnival, and then that just cuts to the credits sequence, which is just a montage of carnival footage.
Right. And basically shots of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now those the two dead people that he was talking about, they've now been inhabited, and so we've got this trio of now aliens. They're walking around the carnival, and Odo is basically giving them the rundown of the plan and basically giving us the full exposition of what the plot of this movie is going to be.
Effectively, all right, we're going to get all these monsters together, and we're going to use them to basically create armies of monsters, and we're going to destroy all of humanity because our planet is freezing, and which, you know, I guess reverse global warming, and then we're going to take this one over.
Kyrion's like, why don't we just nuke them or something? And he's like, well, that would defeat the purpose. Like, we want this planet to be healthy. We just need to get rid of the people. We'll keep everything else as it is.
Mm-hmm. And one of their tools to do this is Count Janos Mylov, which wasn't he in the last one?
Yeah, he was even though he looks completely different in this, but like, yeah, that was the name of the vampire in the last one, I believe.
Or those are Mikolovs. So slightly off, just one off. A couple letters off.
But the Janos part's definitely the same.
Yeah, it's meant to be the same guy. It's got to be.
Yeah. There's a lot of weirdness with the names in this too. Like the version I have of this, like it has like the original Spanish track and the dub, and in both of them they refer to Frankenstein as Frank Salon.
Right.
Or Frank Salon.
Yeah, Frank Salon. It's like they almost took part of the Japanese, and I don't know where they got the salon from.
Yeah, it seems like they were like afraid of copyright infringement or something, even though I would think at that point they were all still in the public domain.
Yeah, had to be.
But our vampire is definitely the first step of the plan, because similar to House of Frankenstein, where you've got the carnival that has the skeleton of the slain vampire, and so they like come up with this plan where there's like a carnival barker, he's showing the skeleton, but he also talks about how he can hypnotize people and like tell their future, and so they send Mileva to interact with him because beautiful women are, powerful weapons. You can trick men with them, basically.
Right, we're going to get all the powerful men and generals on our side with beautiful women, which I mean, I imagine that'll work for the majority, but I also feel like you got to have some pretty guys in there too, right?
Yeah.
You know, we got to be inclusive.
Right. And so, yeah, Mileva, like, goes and gets her fortune read and then kind of, like, hits on him.
Oh, I also like how the fortune teller's like, yes, my beautiful certified nurse here.
Right.
Like, she does have double duty in this movie. She's not just a pretty face.
Yeah. While Mileva's fortune's being read, Odo's just like standing there staring at the fortune teller's assistant, and it's definitely like you get the sense that he is shopping, basically. Like this is his beautiful women plan, and like you said, this is a nurse too. Like I can, she's got skills that we can put to use.
Exactly. So then we cut to later that night.
And it is the most awkward sex scene.
Yeah. So he's laying on top of her, just kind of grinding or gyrating. I'm not sure what I would call that.
Yeah, and she is like so completely not into it.
She's like, just do what you gotta do, buddy.
Which I guess is partially like correct for this. Like I don't think Mileva is necessarily into it, but she's not even like trying to put on a show to trick this guy. She's just like laying there staring at the ceiling.
And I think at this point also, like, the aliens are emotionless, quote unquote. They're very Vulcan in this. They're like, you've got to suppress your emotions. That's the worst thing to do, is actually like fall in love with these people or even like them. We've got to be very clinical about it, which makes sense if you're taking over a planet / country / whatever, is just not get emotionally involved.
Yeah, and like, because that's the whole thing, is like, they keep talking about the humans are weak because we're prone to elevated emotions, so they're going to prey on that with terror. That's the assignment. Terror is we're going to use monsters to scare people, but the alien race, they're from Uma, I think is the name of the planet. They are above all of that, so they don't get scared, they don't fall in love, they don't have that. They've risen above such base desires.
Right. Yeah, they have.
So while the sex scene is going on, we get somebody sneaking in, and like the camera's from like the chest down, so we never really see, but presumably this is Kyrian or Odo, one of the two.
Almost certainly Kyrian. Odo's not the kind that gets his hands dirty.
Yeah, I would think so. And they pull a stake out of the vampire skeleton and then stab the fortune teller in the back with it.
Oh, no. And, of course, for a moment, Mileva looks shocked, but then she's like, sly smile. Good job.
Yeah. And then the fortune teller's assistant comes in, sees the carnage.
And someone says, hey, how would you like to smell my chloroform rag?
Yep, so they've kind of cleaned up things at this point. Oh, it cuts to just a shot of the skeleton, which has now started to grow guts and eyeballs.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I love a good reforming skeleton.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And then we cut to just the police talking about the case, and in the last movie we kept talking about the dads that were just kind of like unnecessary to the plot and just kind of like filler. These cops kind of feel like that in this. They're a little bit more integral to the plot, but at the same time things kind of slow down every time the cops are on screen.
Yeah, at least in the beginning, right? I mean, Inspector Toberman, who is the younger police officer, he actually does stuff, whereas the chief, Commissioner Gluck, does fuck all.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally just here to talk. But eventually we are going to get, maybe a new old face. Or it seems that way, at least. Judge Sternberg. It seems like he's supposed to be, what's his name from the last movie?
The dad from or one of the...
No, he's supposed to be the young guy.
Rudolph.
Rudolph, that's right.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was the case. It was kind of...
It was heavily implied.
Yeah. We will get to him pretty soon. But so while they're talking about the case, the main things that they talk about is that, there's this murder victim, the woman went missing, the skeleton went missing.
And there's this weird gelatinous substance.
Yeah, they're on the stake. So they're going to run tests on that and try to figure out what's going on with that.
I like how the inspector is like, it could be a ghost and it could be ectoplasm. And the commissioner's like, all right, calm down there, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, he is not like that. Kind of is a running thing where like at every turn he's like, oh, could it be supernatural, and the chief's like, nah, get out of here with that shit.
Right.
I'm not buying it.
Calm down, Toberman.
So we cut back to, or I guess for the first time, we see Dr. Odo's lab, and they've got the fortune teller's assistant, and they are turning her into. This is where so like Mileva and Kyrian are actually
reconstituted bodies, basically.
Yeah, aliens put into human bodies, but the other characters that get added to their sort of crew are almost like lobotomized, like zombie drone kind of people. Like I don't think they have aliens inside them. They're just like supposed to be slaves.
See, that's a good question, because that's kind of what I got was kind of they've downloaded the aliens into these people's bodies. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. It could be either way. I don't think they do not explicitly state that. But
yeah, it's confusing because it's like the main trio are kind of treated differently than all the rest of them, and maybe it's just lesser aliens that are supposed to be worker bees or something.
Yeah, they're all privates, and like Kyrian and Mileva are like they're sergeants, right?
Yeah, that would make sense too. But yeah, either way, he's like, I'm turning her into someone we can control, and I shall call her Ilanka.
Right. Oh no, he's giving her a new name.
Yeah.
Right, and then of course he also calls Janos, the Prince of Darkness, will rise soon. Mm-hmm. Which, okay, that's very melodramatic for someone who has no emotions.
Yeah. Part of the plan is that they're going to try to inject his vampire blood into humans to see if they can create more vampires to then scare the rest of humankind.
That's fair, actually.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea for sure.
Oh, man, we got to write a screenplay about that. But there's got to be a Frankenstein in there somewhere. I mean, come on.
Yeah, of course.
But then, of course, we cut to some jazzy 60s music or early 70s. And we got Toberman going to the library.
Yeah.
And the librarian is just so nonplussed by the whole situation. She's just like, we're getting ready to close in like 5 minutes, dude. Get the fuck out.
And he's like, but I it's urgent. I need to see the writings of Ulrich von Frankenstein.
Ferenc Salon.
Yeah. And, so she's like, well, that's weird. We have those on file, but no one has asked for them for years. And then somebody else just came like 5 minutes ago and asked for them. Like, what a strange coincidence.
Yeah, just go up the stairs and there's Carl and he'll get you right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure will.
Yeah, so he goes up there and finds the book laying on a table. It's called the Anthology of the Monsters.
Well, basically, it's the literal monster manual of this world.
Right. But there's a big chunk of pages torn out of the middle, and Carl, the other librarian, is dead and just kind of like tucked up in the rafters.
Right, just staring down at him. He just looks up and he's like, oh shit!
Yeah.
Hi, Carl.
And so he kind of flips, or no, I think...
We cut to a newspaper then, and the translation is, his attractive assistant missing, suspected of complicity in his murder. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's cool,
So yeah, it's interesting. It's very similar. They had the fortune teller dies, and the assistant is missing, and then now we've got a librarian dying, and the clerk girl librarian at the front has gone missing. So then we see Odo doing the same procedure on her as well.
Right.
So this is his collection of beautiful women that he needs. Is every woman that he comes across, he's gonna do this technique to.
Damn it, Odo, they're not like Pokemon. Leave them be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we cut to the morgue where the police are talking to, like, I guess the coroner or something. He's like, the librarian also had weird gelatinous cells on him, and it's some sort of, they're living, but we don't recognize them. We're gonna have to send them out to test further.
And I love like how these cells, quote unquote, look like basically tomato soup, boiling tomato soup. We've got little bubbles popping up, and that's about it. It looks like boiling soup.
Yeah.
Really weird. But I also like how Commissioner Gluck is like, well, we need more proof aside from this fucking substance that is everywhere. That's your evidence, man. Like, where else is that found? Nobody knows this. If you see this on multiple scenes, they are fucking linked.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I get that he's supposed to be the skeptic in terms of like the supernatural stuff, but like you also have to be like, like in this case, that's not skepticism, that's just being dumb.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so at that point, Toberman shows the chief the anthology and kind of goes through it, and he's like, look, there's entries about the mummy and the Nosferatu and the golem.
Now, okay, so I was like, okay, the golem is our monster. No, because we hear about the monster of Frankenstein. And I'm upset because they cut the golem from this movie. He was supposed to be in the movie, but because of budgetary concerns, and basically they already had one, they cut him.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Like we've talked about that there are some Golem movies that we are going to talk about, but it'd be interesting if there was like a Golem Frankenstein monster crossover movie, because
that'd be so good.
A Jewish monster and a German monster, and like I don't know, there'd be plenty of interesting angles to take that depending on.
Well, the thing about the Golem is it's meant to be obviously protective versus offensive, whereas the monster is more offensive than defensive. So it's like an unstoppable object, or an unstoppable
object,
an unstoppable force. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that could be you set that in World War II, and you've got like some badass monster fights.
Well, and probably a lot of problematic elements, but
for sure. Well, after all the stuff we've watched over the past month or so.
Fair enough. It'll be something for sure.
We're just coming up with all kinds of movie ideas this week.
There you go.
But yeah, the missing section turns out to be the part about Frankenstein's monster. I think there's like a little bit at the end that he kind of reads where he can tell that's what was discussed in that section.
Well, he basically discusses how Frankenstein was, we might as well say Frankenstein, had put in the brain, but he goofed, and it was a murderer brain. It was Abby Normal's brain. And he was like, well, I'm going to blow myself and the monster up, which is a wild turn. Why don't you just blow the monster up? Why you got to take yourself out, man? People are overboard in this.
Of course, this whole section is just... And he's also like, there's also a section about werewolves, and like he goes through all the werewolf lore. Like, this is just, a lore dump. Like, this is all the exposition we need here. Still, Chief Gluck is like, I'm not buying this. This is all superstition. I'm anemic to vampire lore, I think he says.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a great line. But he also notices, hey, for some reason, the window has opened up, and there's a draft coming in. I'm like, oh, are we going to get a monster? No, he just goes to the window and shuts it. That's such a tease.
It's like in horror movies when they just have the soundtrack amp up and then nothing happened.
Yeah, or the dramatic puddles, damn it.
And so, I think at that point we see Odo and Kyrian. They break into a crypt, and they open the tomb of Valdemar Daninsky.
Oh, no. And, of course, we also get the caretaker who's like, hey, who are these guys out in the graveyard? I might as well finish eating my dinner before I go investigate them, though. Yeah,
it's like, I think we find, like, as they're leaving, we see him coming down the stairs, and then it just cuts away. But you can pretty much assume, based on what's gone on in the past, how things are going to go for this poor guy.
Either he's an alien or he just doesn't make it. But because he's not a beautiful woman, he probably just doesn't make it.
Right. Then we get another newspaper on the screen that says 2 nurses from the local hospital have gone missing. And then we cut straight to a surgery scene, and it's like, oh, that's where those nurses went.
Basically, and there's now a bunch of beautiful women standing around Otto as he's operating on Valdemar, resuscitating him.
And as far as like content warnings, like this straight up has real heart surgery
scene,
in right here. Like, the idea is they're removing the silver bullet to bring him back to life, but, like, you do get to see, like, literally, which it's surprisingly not bloody. It's relatively clean looking, but it is still, you get to see a heart being cut open and poked around in it.
Yeah, and it is pumping, so.
Yeah. So, be aware of that if that's something that's going to make you uncomfortable. And they add a new piece to the werewolf lore. So, the standard lore of the silver bullet, and then in the last movie, we found out that it's a silver bullet fired by someone that you love. Mm-hmm. But now it's a silver bullet fired by someone that you love that is willing to die with you.
Oh, so that's some implication. Oh, no.
Yeah, so in the last movie, of course, Janice killed him, but she lived on. So he was still not completely dead.
Right. But it's implied that she would have died with him. Mm-hmm. But,
But didn't. So, yeah. Somehow that makes the difference. It's that sacrifice, I guess.
Right, but now they have this special werewolf transformation controlling serum that they're injecting into Valdemar.
Yeah, it's supposed. So Odo puts Ilonka in charge of that. She's got to keep an eye on him and make sure that he does not transform into a werewolf.
Right, that's like assigning him a girlfriend. Right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Which, okay, to be fair, if they're going to make an army of werewolves, shouldn't they also make an army of girls who love the specific werewolves? Or guys, I guess, depending on who the werewolves are? Because, you got to think, you're going to want to fail safe here, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you're going to want someone who's, genetically programmed to love them. And be willing to die for them, I guess.
Yeah, this lore has gotten so complicated.
I'm overthinking the shit out of this.
Then we get some more with Odo kind of talking about his whole evil plan, that he's going to collect all these different monsters and create armies of each variety, and then set them loose on mankind. Which,
the army of mummies seems a little complicated.
Yeah, you can't, you can inject vampire blood, or you can have werewolves bite people, but mummies, you just gotta do the whole process, the mummification process, and just
That seems tedious.
Yeah.
It's in the time you can make a mummy, you could already have several Frankenstein monsters made,
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, they're definitely more powerful anyway. You just gotta, mummies are the pawns. They just move slow, and they're not that useful. If you have a bunch laying around, fine, but you're not gonna want to make them.
Right. You gotta have an Imhotep if you really want some power in your mummy.
Yeah. At that point, we cut to, that night, and Daninsky is chained up in a cell, and he does turn into a wolf, so Ilonka has either not given him the serum or not given him enough or something. Mm-hmm. But he, immediately breaks the chains. Then we just cut away to the cops again, and they're talking about the gelatin, and it is officially unidentifiable.
Right.
It's nothing on this planet, so they should know something really nefarious is going on at this point.
Right, but I still feel like Gluck is whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. We also have 4 nurses missing, with an additional 2 random murders.
And Toberman's I think I've got a hunch. Stuff's kind of coming together for me. I know this is kind of outside of what you're believing, but can you give me a few days to kind of follow up on all this and figure stuff out?
Right, and Gluck being the absolute, laziest man is yeah, sure, go for it. Have fun.
Yeah, he's just kind of whatever, it's off my plate. You do what you want to do then, I guess.
Right.
And then we see out on the street, werewolf Valdemar has escaped. He attacks one woman who is in a car.
Okay, can we talk about her and her boyfriend, or the guy she's dating? Because that is cold-blooded, man. They get in the car, and he just goes in for a kiss. She just straight up tells him, "Don't spoil this." Whoa. Damn. What a way to say the night didn't go well.
Yeah, and it's he goes inside for something, and so she's
she left her Shaw in the
right, that's what it was. And then Valdemar attacks her through the window while that's going on, and she just is peace out, and she just speeds away, leaves the guy behind.
Well, she tries rolling up the window, which good for her, a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah,
but she's a boss. I kind of wonder, I would have liked to see the guy come out with the Shaw and be like, "She stole my car," and then get mauled by the werewolf.
Right. But yeah, so the werewolf just kind of moves on, goes down the street a little bit, and finds another lady who is kind of standing on a street corner.
So is she supposed to be a prostitute because it feels that way?
I think so.
Also, that's the sketchiest fucking street corner ever, dude. Go out onto the main street versus the back alley. Protect yourself.
Yeah. I think pretty much we cut to the next thing is there's a dance club that's right near this corner called the Golden Egg.
Well, we do get to see her mauled in shadow, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, it's Toberman is at this dance club following up on her murder.
Well, the first shot we get is, of course, some woman's feet just dancing. And I'm like, okay, we get party feet pics. Gotcha.
Yeah, and this is like straight up like, just everything you can imagine of like a swinging 60s dance club. And Odo is also there in the background, just kind of walking around, kind of creepy. He definitely does not fit in with this whole vibe at all.
He clearly disapproves of everything going on, yet he's still there.
Yeah. And Toberman is talking to a waiter. He's like, yeah, that the girl, the dead girl, she had just left the club a little bit ago. So it seems, like you said, I think she's using this club as like a pickup place, like for her sex work operation, basically, and left, I guess, because things weren't or it was either she was done for the night or things were slow or whatever, and then the werewolf got her. And so Toberman's getting info, and then just kind of like out of nowhere, the waiter's like, oh, also there's this kind of strange guy who's become a regular lately. I think he lives in the creepy castle on the hill.
Right.
and Toberman's like, oh, indeed, say more, please. And he's like, yeah, it's that guy. He just came in.
The guy who's walking right past us right now, who's looking at us.
Yeah. It's like, good on that waiter for like kind of being on top of things. Like, because usually if you have like a police procedural kind of thing that are like, so many people come in and out of here, I don't recognize anybody. But
right.
This waiter's like, nah, I think that guy might be up to some shit.
Right. We like this waiter. He's watching out for his customers.
Yeah. Toberman like goes to kind of talk to Odo, and Odo just kind of like dips out of there real fast.
Right. He slugs his drink and like walks the fuck off once he sees Toberman.
He's not wanting to have that conversation.
Right. It's like, that's not a sketchy fucking exchange if I've ever seen one.
Yeah. So then we just cut to later on. Odo's back in the lab, and he's pissed because Daninsky escaped and attacked someone, and that could fuck up their whole operation. We don't need the cops' attention.
Right, not this early, right? Not until we're ready to attack. So we're going to torture Valdemar and Ilanka for letting Valdemar escape.
Mm-hmm. He has like this these headphones. They look like the kind that they test your hearing with when you're in elementary school. It's got like an ultrasonic frequency that's, torturous in some way. And he just kind of holds it up to Daninsky's ear for a couple seconds just to show him like, don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
That's as far as he tortures him. But then he just like puts them on Ilanka and just like blasts her with them for a little bit.
Right, and Valdemar, to his credit, he looks like he wants to just get up and help her. Mm-hmm. But of course, he's not in werewolf form now, so he can't.
Yeah. And finally, Maleva's like, stop, you've done enough. Like, because not only is Odo torturing Ilanka, he's making everybody watch so that they know, like, this is what happens when you fuck up.
Right. And he's like, hey, pity is a weakness.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's getting kind of concerned that, like, not only is pity a weakness, but it's a human weakness. And, Maleva is supposed to be, Uma now, like, and so this kind of human trait seeping in concerns him. And at that point, they get a dispatch from the home planet that they have located the mummy.
Right. They specifically say Imhotep, but according to the credits, it's supposed to be Tautet. So. Yeah. That's another Ferenc Salon situation.
Right. And not only have they located where the mummy is, but they have figured out that you can control it with this, like, arc-shaped mirror, basically.
Hell of a device.
Right. Which, so that fits into their whole plan of, like, having soldiers that they can control. So they like that. At that point, we get another scene with Toberman, who is now visiting the girl who sped away in the car, the victim who lived. She's like just gotten out of the shower, and when she hears the doorbell, she thinks it's her friend or something, and she's like, come on up. And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were somebody else, so let me get dressed. And she comes out kind of like, I think her hair wrapped up in a towel.
Right.
And all that.
And of course she hides her underwear that's on the bed. Which, understandable.
Yeah. But they quickly realized that they knew each other. They went to school together. They were a couple grades apart, but they have a little bit of a history.
Yeah, and her dad's Judge Sternberg. possibly Rudolph Sternberg.
And right away, like, they're pretty flirty, and it's like, okay, like, this is our romance storyline that we need for this movie.
Yeah, because she had a crush on him in high school.
So not only is her father Judge Sternberg, but back in the day when he was younger, he knew a werewolf. So
Possibly,
further kind of like corroborates that this is probably Rudolph and that we're talking about Daninsky here. Toberman's like, oh, interesting. Things are coming together. That's the kind of clue that kind of corroborates what I've been suspecting all along.
Right, but going back to that, the last movie, Rudolph was a Weissman versus Sternberg. So also, though, I mean, it's in the era when nobody really gives a shit. You know who it's supposed to be if you've seen the previous movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like everybody's names and the vampires' names changed, and everything's just slightly off. So it's probably a different production company, and we don't want to step on any toes and get legal trouble in the mix. Then we cut to them. We cut to just a shot of a TWA plane flying, and then we're in Egypt, headed into the tomb. Yeah,
we get some more of that jazzy music, and then they're driving through the desert in their Humvee, basically.
Yeah. And when they get to the tomb, they've got like an Egyptian guide with them, and he's like, nope, here's the tomb. This is where I stop. You can go in there, but I'm not fucking with that.
Right. And it's interesting to me that they actually gave a shit enough to be like, come on in with us. He's like, nah, I'm good. This is right where my jurisdiction ends.
Right. When they go in, they find a bunch of skeletons just kind of laying around, and then there's a patch of wall that is, you know, when you're in the video game and there's that part of the wall that's a slightly different color, and you're like, I know what this is about.
Strike this wall to reveal a hidden area, right?
Yeah.
By the way, Paul Naschy is fucking jacked.
Yeah.
Like, good for him.
They give him, he's got like a pickaxe kind of thing, and he just like smashes through the wall, which leads into, you know, of course, a hidden room.
And they use like the mirror to find another hole?
Yeah, there's like a second hidden door, within this other room. And that room actually is like the room. You've got like the cool Egyptian treasure shit and the big sarcophagus in the middle of the room.
Right. And of course, because they're aliens and they're not concerned with human trinkets, they're like, we've come for the mummy. We're not here for the treasure. The, like, priceless treasure.
They open up the sarcophagus, and inside, of course, is our mummy.
Right. And the as soon as you see the mummy's eyes, it, like, locks onto Wernoff, who's not even there, but watching it from a screen.
Yeah, and so there's sort of like closed circuit screens are, a big part of this movie for sure. And Odo's definitely like you said earlier, he's not the kind to get his hands dirty. He's just going to keep an eye on them. Then I will say, I think the makeup on this mummy's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not quite like the Universal mummy is just so good. But this is pretty good. They wake the mummy up, they use the controller thing, and he goes out and chokes out their guide.
Right. Well, I would say hug. It's a very deadly hug.
Yeah. Which, of course, like, there was no way they were going to let that guy get away with the knowledge that he had. So I think then we cut back to Toberman with we do get her name, but it's like Ilsa. It's like a while before we find it out. Like, I kept just calling her like
Judge's daughter.
Yeah, but yeah, so they're now with the judge, and he's kind of like telling them his whole kind of backstory.
My wife, who died 7 years ago, used to love this man who was a werewolf when we were younger. So it's more allusion to that.
Yeah. And he does even specifically say Daninsky. So, we're definitely talking about the same werewolf here.
Which, that's got to be an uncomfortable marriage. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like, we were engaged or whatever, then you left me for the werewolf, and then when that didn't work out, I got to be your backup choice.
Your bounce, yeah. Your rebound guy. That's great.
And when they leave, we just get a just weird shot of just the cop and Ilsa making out in the park for just a second.
Right.
Just to really hammer home, we're like, this is going to be our romance.
They love each other.
Yeah. A little later, we see Mileva working on drawing blood from the vampire.
Yeah, she's trying to get some of that good old blood.
And again, like, I don't know if this was just really good special effects or just real blood draw footage, because it looked very real.
Yeah.
But it also, like, it definitely, because, like, the vampire in this is kind of like Munster's rules. Like, he's, like, bluish gray skin, and, you know, the Frankenstein is green and the vampire is blue. And so it's definitely his, like, bluish arm, but, like, the needle looks like it's really going in, and it fills up with blood. So if you've got a needle thing, this is a pretty realistic. And it possibly is real. I couldn't say for sure.
I mean, it is a Spanish production, or what is a Spanish-German production, so who knows?
Yeah, it feels to me more likely that they would be like, let's just draw a little bit of his blood than like, let's figure out how to do that with special effects.
Right. We've cut a whole monster from this film because of budgetary restraints. Draw the blood.
Yeah.
But of course, he's a vampire and he's not fully sedated, so vampires are going to hypnotize you if they get the chance, apparently.
And yeah, and she starts to kind of zone out, and then Odo like runs over and he just puts his hands in front of her face to block the hypnotism beams.
That's great. You don't see that very often, do you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty good gag. And then he's like, tomorrow we're going to get the Frankenstein monster. You need to be careful. Like, this happening means that you're still too human.
Yeah.
You're weak and emotional. You're too in your body. And these bodies are just supposed to be vehicles for us. You're not supposed to get attached to the body.
Right. These are skin suits.
Mm-hmm. So he's like, in fact, I'm going to leave you and Kyrian here at the base tomorrow, and I'll just go with Daninsky. We'll take care of the Frankenstein monster.
Right. They give each other kind of a knowing look, like, hey, Dad's gonna be out tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, like, the division there is becoming clearer from, you know, with every scene, that, like, Odo is viewing the situation differently than Mileva and Kyrian. We don't get much from Kyrian. He's really kind of a background character, but it kind of just feels like however Maleva's feeling, Kyrian is having similar feelings.
Yeah, he's definitely reciprocating.
And then we get another police scene where we find out that the dead girl found on the street corner, she had hair under her nails, but it belonged to an unknown animal. It was not of human origin.
Possibly werewolf? Exactly werewolf, yeah.
Yeah. And then we just cut to, like, the Frankenstein castle. They're reviving him.
This is the most stylish monster I think we've ever seen. Like, because he's got the full, like, tailored suit with the button, or the turtleneck. Like, this is a profiling monster. Yeah,
clearly Paul Naschy is a turtleneck fan.
Yeah.
So, and the makeup on the Frankenstein, I wouldn't say is as good as the mummy or the werewolf. It's weird because it's like, it's a real person. It's not a mask, but like they've put so much like wax or whatever they've used to build up the face that it has like no emotion. It never it doesn't move its mouth. Like, it has no facial movement, and it's like
barely opens the eyes.
Yeah, like they could have just used a mask for all of the movement that they get out of this face.
Here's what I think happened, because I noticed that a lot of the scarring like matches the actor, like the outline of the face. So I feel like they used that to glue the head prosthetic on.
Yeah, that could be.
Probably caused some issues with mobility and facial reactions.
Yeah, that would make sense. And so they revived the Frankenstein monster in their lab. They're not out at the Frankenstein castle. Because the monster gets up and just like walks out of the room, and Odo's like, "Don't worry, this is a test." And
right.
I was like,
it's like the monster needs to establish dominance.
It's strange because like it seemed like Odo had like set up a test, but this is literally seconds after the creature woke up. So it's like, I mean, I don't know how he's exactly controlling the monster, but ultimately he goes down the hall, goes to Daninsky's cell where he's locked up, and then tries to kill Daninsky.
I mean, if he wasn't a werewolf, I'm sure he would have been successful.
Yeah. Odo's telling everyone, don't worry, this is just part of the test. And the rest of them are upset about this. And they're like, this is a cruel test. This is not good.
And it is. I mean, he's basically sicking one monster onto another.
Just mainly to be like, one, Frankenstein monster, are you loyal and will follow my commands? And two, Daninsky, you better listen to me or I can put you down.
Right.
Definitely, a show of dominance across the board there. And, he keeps being like, the problem is you all are becoming too human. There's no problem with me, it's a problem with you.
Yeah, you all are susceptible to mental changes. I'm still on track. You guys are screwing up here.
Then we get another bit with Toberman and Ilsa's father, the judge, and they go to Daninsky's tomb.
Right. I like how they actually they show the caretaker's last meal, and now it's moldy.
And they open it up, and inside is the caretaker. So, as we said, he did not make it out of there.
Rough, man. It sucks to be a background character in a horror movie.
Right. Meanwhile, Odo has sent Ilonka again to inject Daninsky with the serum.
Right, and he smolders at her. He's like, why are you helping me? Trying to be all sexy with her unintentionally. I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional.
Yeah, because, you would think after being tortured, she would be more on top of doing things the way Odo wants. But no, she goes, and it's like she does think about it for a minute, and then she just squirts the serum out of the syringe, into one of those, little kidney-shaped trays that is, on your table when you're at the hospital all the time. I think they're spit trays or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, she dumps out the serum, does not inject him with it.
Right. She's like, I'm helping you because I'm a woman. Okay, well, she's giving up the alien part. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and she says something like, I'm not, or he's like, but I thought you were, Odo's slave, and she's like, no, not anymore. I want to run away with you. We need to get out of this terrible situation.
More evidence that she's in love with him, first off. Two, that's going to be bad for both of them.
Right.
And Voldemort's like, yeah, let's go ahead and escape. And they do, but they're immediately caught by Maleva, who's just like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. I don't care about this guy.
Yes, which Maleva is definitely moving towards their viewpoint and away from Odo as well.
Right.
Then we see a scene in a bar where Toberman looks and he sees the vampire sitting at the bar, and then he looks away and looks back, and it's just a regular dude, and it's he's got monsters on the brain so much that he's hallucinating.
Man, I really hope that turns into something. Okay.
Yeah, it's just it is going to return as another pointless gag and then just completely fall off the radar of the movie.
Right. I feel like Toberman's actor was all right, I want my guy to go crazy and just see monsters everywhere. And everyone's like, yeah, sure, we got a couple extra, film canisters around here. Why not?
Yeah. We see later on, it's nighttime and Kyrian comes into Maleva's room and they start talking so you're starting to feel these human emotions too, and yeah, they're both on the same page, and then they get into bed. They've fallen in love now as well.
Right. It's the passion that Wernoff warned them about. Right.
But then the Frankenstein monster just bursts into the room and instantly just chokes Kyrian to death.
Damn it, Wernoff, you cock blocker.
Yeah. And it's so he just comes in, chokes him, and then just gets up and walks out.
Right. It's I could have killed you, Maleva, but you apparently are more use than Kyrian, so he dies. Which, that's great for morale, man. Instead of just sending him home. Which,
yeah, they easily could have done, but nope. And yeah, Odo's watching all of this on the closed circuit TV. Then we get the other scene where Toberman is looking through the anthology and he looks over in a mirror and sees himself kind of look like a monster for a second.
Almost like a Frankenstein monster with crazy hair.
Yeah, get a tall kind of forehead.
Yeah.
He gets a call from Ilsa and is like, okay, I'll be right over. So we kind of skipped over it, but she's been in protective custody with Chief Gluck for a couple of days because, you know, Toberman's realizing like some big stuff's going on and she's kind of involved in a way.
Yeah, I feel like that was a bad call to begin with, but because Gluck doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, and in fact, she was able to easily shake him and go back to her apartment where Toberman meets her, and she's just like, "I'm sick of being in protective custody. I miss you. I don't like being with Gluck. He's not a fun guy to hang out with."
She's like, "This was a booty call. Let's go."
Yeah. Yep, so they start to kiss and everything. Cut back to the lab where Odo now has Mileva attached to some machine, and he's like, I'm not going to torture or punish you like I did with Ilonka, but I am going to fix you because something is wrong.
We got to take out those memories and those emotions, right?
Yeah. Kyrian had to die, but he thinks he can fix Mileva. Like, they get into an argument, and she's like, you know, I am a woman now, and I have women's intuition, and you are contaminated too. You also love, and you feel jealous.
Yeah.
So
he's got dirty old man syndrome, right?
Yeah. So she's basically like, you're acting like you're above this, but you're in love with me too, and that's the reason that Kyrian's dead and that I'm still alive.
Yeah. Fair enough.
He's not happy about, you know, being called on his shit, so he electrocutes her again, and we cut to Toberman and Ilsa. They're in bed together now, like post-coital situation. He gets a phone call from Gluck, but is like, don't worry, you know, I've got Ilsa, she's safe. But I don't know why Gluck would have called Toberman at Ilsa's apartment.
Right. Why would he not have put two and two together? It's like, wait a second, I called Ilsa. I didn't call you. Yeah. You answered. And Ilsa's trying to just like she's like, round two, big boy, let's go. Yeah. Like she's hanging all over him and trying to be like, look, we're banging. We need to get off here.
Yeah. And like, yeah, she's, you know, it is one of those kind of cute moments where like he's trying to have the serious conversation with his boss and she's just being kind of flirty and playful. Yeah. And I feel like this scene is definitely right after what we just saw, like intentionally. You know, we've seen like they've got this free and fun love. It's very playful and you know, genuine, whereas you've got the aliens that are like fighting their feelings and it's causing, you know,
all kinds of havoc and stuff.
Yeah. So and it's showing that like here are humans and their love is making their lives better and you know, they're protecting each other and caring for each other, whereas here we've got, you know, Kyrian dead and Mileva being basically tortured for having feelings. And it's definitely a nice contrast there.
And then we get another couple, Valdemar and what's her name? I called her the blonde alien. Ilonka, that's it. Thank you. Sorry, I missed that.
And they mentioned that they're going to go talk to the judge and tell him what's happening. Basically, there's no escape for them. They're both cursed, and they need to kind of try to, like, save the day, stop the bad guys.
Right. He realizes he has to be shot by a woman who loves him enough to die with him. He reiterates that. And then he just hands her the gun. Because I think the intention was that they were going to go see the judge and his wife. Because I think Baltimore's like, she loved me once.
Yeah.
But then he was like, you love me more now. Here's the gun to put me down.
Yeah. And then there is one of the weirdest scenes. So Ilonka is holding the gun and she says, "It's strange. Ever since I was a small child, I've always dreamed of." And then she just kind of like drops to her knees and looks up at the sky, and he looks up at the sky, and the camera pans away, and that's it. Like, they never say what I guess she dreamed of true love, but I don't think she dreamed of having to murder her werewolf boyfriend.
But she was really dramatic and emo when she was a kid.
Yeah, it's a very bizarre, and it's another one that I was like, maybe this is I watched the dubbed version and the subtitled version, and both of them are the same. Like it's no different. They do not say what she dreams of. And also, beyond that, like, does she mean the human child that she was dreaming
of this? Or the alien?
Or the alien? Yeah, so it's very, very confusing.
Or is she confusing the two now? I'm giving it way too much credit. I need to stop.
Yeah, it's kind of, you can kind of really spiral down a rat. Like, is it the human child had these dreams and now the alien part of her is remembering
Right.
The humans, it's a mind fuck for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we just cut to Toberman now entering the castle. So he's, finally getting to the bottom of everything.
Right, and just because this movie feels the need to make it ominous, as soon as he pulls into the courtyard, the portcullis slams down behind him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such like cartoon, like Scooby-Doo Scary Mansion kind of stuff.
Right.
He gets greeted at the door by another one of the like drone girls, and she's like, oh, he's expecting you. And Odo is watching, on his like CCTV. Odo's like, Maleva, looks like one of your kind is coming.
Yeah. It's like, oh, and she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, human, because that's what you kind of are now.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't think the incarnation process worked as intended with you. And she's like, okay, so am I your enemy now? And he's like, no. No, you're under my control. You can't be my enemy when I control what you do.
Right, which clearly he's not doing, but okay. I mean, that's why he had to kill Kyrian, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, also, as Toberman enters in, Wernoff doesn't have time to talk to him directly. No, he has his fucking screen. Like, was this supposed to be a pre-programmed message to Toberman while he's sitting there working in the lab? Or is he talking while he's working? Which
it goes back and forth where it's really hard to tell which of those is supposed to be the case.
Right.
But yeah, this is the villain monologue scene. Like, he just tells Toberman his whole plan.
He doesn't hide a fucking thing. He's like, yeah, we're aliens. We're getting a bunch of monsters to destroy all of you humans.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, also, I sent the vampire to kidnap your girlfriend, and then shows footage of that happening.
Right. And he's like, oh yeah, and also I'll show you your future, because apparently he has the power to do that. And he's like, I'm going to chain you up, and we're going to have these bats eat your eyes. Okay. Cool.
That's what bats do, right?
His special bats, I guess. He trained him to go for the eyes.
Yeah. And so at that point, the Frankenstein monster and the mummy burst into the room that Toberman is in, and then we just cut away to the town elders, including Chief Gluck and the judge, are talking about all the weird stuff that's been going on. Right. And the slow progress on all the murder cases. And
I like how the judge is like, all right, guys, so I've been putting this one in my back pocket. But it turns out when I was a kid, there was this werewolf guy named Deninsky. My wife loved him. Also, there were vampires and we killed them. And then we killed him.
Right. So, and he's like, I haven't wanted to say anything, but now that my daughter's missing, I guess I'll give away this valuable information. Could have saved other lives. That's fine. No, my daughter's at risk now, so fuck him. Yeah, and he's like, I think so. Deninsky's still alive, and something's going on at the castle. So I think we're to infer that Deninsky and Ilonka did talk to him. We just didn't get that scene. Right. Which, I mean, to be fair, what else would it have been other than, hey, is your wife around? I need her to shoot me again. Gosh. Yeah. And so then at the castle, we've got Deninsky and Ilonka. They show up and they rescue Toberman. Who's being attacked by bats. Yeah. These are some straight up flappy bats. We haven't had flappy bats in a while. It's nice to see him, even if they're trying to eat someone's eyeballs, apparently. Listen, they've been in the dungeon for too long. We haven't fed them quite right, so what do you expect? Deninsky's like, all right, you're safe, but the full moon's coming, so we gotta, again, just like in the last movie, he's like, we got some stakes, we gotta wrap this shit up because I'm about to wolf out. We're on a small time scale, right, or time frame. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that we actually get a joke here, because as Toberman's like going through the crypt, he like goes through this really small spot, and then all of a sudden, like a hand falls on his back, and he looks up and it's just a skeleton. Yeah. And it's like, womp womp. Yeah, I mean, there was that kind of weird skeleton gag in the last movie too, so I guess they just enjoy those. Maybe it's the same skeleton. He's a practical joker. Right. And so, but yeah, so we have a lot of scenes here of Toberman walking around the castle just yelling for Ilsa. We do see that she is asleep on a slab right next to the vampire. Coffin, yeah.
And like when he calls for her, the vampire's like, all right, it's my time.
Time to go to work.
Yep.
And so he's kind of stalking the castle now. We also see the Frankenstein monster wake up. He's walking around.
Right. Full moon comes out. Deninsky starts wolfing out. And he like pushes, what's her name? Did you say Ilonka? Really hard against the wall and knocks her out.
Yeah. So, even though they have their true love, when he's a werewolf, he's going to attack anything near him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we've got all these kind of moving pieces on the board, all wandering around these like catacombs looking for each other. And I think at that point we do get the vampire finding Toberman and
tries to hypnotize him.
Yeah, and somehow Toberman is able to resist the hypnotism.
I think it's implied that his love is giving him that strength.
And he like breaks some like wooden post and creates the perfect stake because it's a spear stake, so you don't have to get close, which I don't know why that's not more common.
You would think it would be. Have you ever played Legacy of Kain?
No.
So it's an old PlayStation 1 game, but all the people, you're vampire is what it is. And like all the enemies just have wooden spears, no metal on the end. And they're just, it's like, there you go. That's how you do that.
Yeah, and it clearly works because, I mean...
The vamp goes down immediately.
Yeah, he stakes him and he's gone, and as soon as he dies, Ilsa wakes up. So presumably he had her under some sort of glamour. So now she's wandering the castle, and outside the police and maybe the military arrive.
It seems that way. I was like, okay, we got the cavalry coming in here. Okay. Good
So they're kind of like surrounding the castle.
Once again, this judge way more active than his dad.
Yeah, definitely on top of things here. The mummy ends up finding Ilsa. He grabs her, but she's easily able to run away because mummies are slow.
Toberman's a boss, by the way, because he's like, hey, or he runs in on them, and he's like, hey, there's a torch. Mummies burn.
And again, it's pretty useful. Like, he keeps swinging it at the mummy, and the mummy keeps like jumping back because he's like, nah, I'm not about that. I'm not letting my bandages catch fire.
Right, but then we get Valdemar pop. Valdemar comes in like a boss.
And this fight, like, so Valdemar attacks the mummy while, Toberman and Ilsa are able to kind of get away.
Yeah, they're like, we're getting the fuck out of here.
This is a good ass fight. Like, it is, it's really like exciting. It moves through several rooms. It ends.
Okay, it's both hilarious and awesome how it ends.
I guess, is it like a windmill kind of thing?
It's a dynamo is what it is. It's a science wheel. It's a science wheel.
But it's like basically like a hamster wheel. It's a giant wooden wheel, and somehow the werewolf is able to kind of push the mummy inside it, and it's spinning. So now we've got a mummy basically running on a hamster wheel, and then
he's on tumble dry. We put the mummy on tumble dry. See, this is an undercover reason why you need to check your lint traps. It was a PSA all along, Anthony.
Yep, so the mummy goes up in flames and then is like spinning around still on fire.
Insult to injury.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Deninsky ends up finding the Frankenstein monster.
Right, Ilonka wakes up.
Yeah, and so now we've got the werewolf and the Frankenstein fighting, and Ilonka is kind of...
you mean we have a monster fight?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a good one. Skimp on those. Yeah, and this one's really good as well.
Yeah, because they're both just beating the shit out of each other. And but Valdemar, he has the power of Lucha Libre on his side.
Yes.
Because he's like, he jumps on the panels and like runs across.
And like they end up in like the main science lab, and they're just like destroying everything in the process. Which, I guess when Frankensteins and werewolves fight, that tends to happen. We saw it in the Universal movies as well.
It'd be like that.
But yeah, all the equipment starts catching fire. The Frankenstein monster ends up getting slammed up against some sort of machine that electrocutes him.
I feel like this version, because they said he has electrical powers,
yeah,
clearly doesn't. I feel like he should be immune to electrocution.
Yeah, it seems like that would only make him stronger. But yeah, in this case, he just kind of like collapses, and then the werewolf sees that Alanka's been kind of following them and hiding behind stuff. So he starts to like rush towards her to attack her, and she shoots him several times, but he still gets to her and claws her.
Yeah, and chokes her out.
Yep. So then, as we've been heavily implying was going to happen this whole movie, they die together in each other's arms.
She was willing to die with him.
Yeah.
Aww. Maleva comes in and she sees that Ilanka and Valdemar are both dead. And basically everything's falling apart because we just had two monsters like destroy a lot of electrical equipment. So her and Vornoff are like, all right, we've got to get out of here.
Toberman and Ilsa have made it out. They got away sooner. But Maleva's like, I think we're trapped.
Yeah.
And then on the TV screen, the alien homeworld contacts them and is, and Odo's like, basically like, beam us up, Scotty. And they're like, no. you
fucked up.
You got to pay for your failure. But while we got you on the phone, is there anything you can tell us to help when we try this again?
It's like, nah, you're done, buddy. And he's like, all right. So turns out human love was one of the strongest things, and at the very least, could you at least save Maleva? And I do love the response that the aliens give. They're like, Maleva's dead on that planet.
Yeah, and then she kind of like smiles and then just disappears.
Right. So did they save her or did they just like disintegrate her?
Yeah, it's very unclear. She disappears and then the castle just explodes, killing Odo, and we see a lot of explosion stuff inside the castle. Then we see like footage on the outside with Toberman and Ilsa. This feels very end of Universal movie where the only good guys stand and watch the castle explode.
The pure humans survive. And then, of course, we get Toberman, who very much universally goes, as long as there are those willing to sacrifice themselves for us, nothing shall destroy us. Who fucking sacrificed themselves for you, dude? Like, you went in and did work. Everyone was willing to kill. I don't think anyone was willing to sacrifice. I mean, okay. Ilanka and Valdemar, maybe.
Yeah.
That's it.
They don't know what happened with Maleva. I don't think they ever even knew that she was like on their side by the end of it. But so, yeah, I mean, I guess they have to be talking about Daninsky. But yeah, I mean, kind of like, further emphasizes Odo's final realization that, human love and loyalty and, all the good, positive, emotional qualities that humans have are so much stronger than like the analytical alien mind.
Which, I mean, if these were actual analytical aliens, I feel like they would have done better.
Yeah, it's the combination of the trying to be analytical while still emotional that's not working out for them so well.
Yeah, I guess it would make more sense if it's like they're technically fighting their own nature and that's why they weren't as effective, blah, blah, blah. But also, you gotta remember, these are aliens who are dying on a planet that they probably, like, I don't know if they could have saved, but I feel like they could have colonized other planets, And if they're energy beings, why didn't they just integrate themselves into human society? Like, just find a bunch of missing people one at a time and just filter back in.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like they had other options for sure. If they've got all this power to do these things, they could have done other better things instead. Yeah,
things that would have made more sense. Maybe even repairing their own home planet. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's probably how we're going out anyway, so.
Yeah, for real.
All right. Anything else we got to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really like. I thought this was just kind of it's fun, it's simple. Like, there's not it doesn't have a lot of depth to it, but the message is a little cheesy, but like I think it is generally like a positive message at the end. We have the two characters who really did love each other and that were pure, that they survived.
Right. I think this is one of the few couples that actually like fucking loves each other, and it's obvious. Whereas in a lot of the other movies, it's been like, oh, we love each other. It's definitely tell, not show in those cases.
Yeah, I mean, like that scene with him on the phone and her flirting with him, like that's so real. Like I think that is really kind of like a capstone for this movie of like that's where the end message is really kind of like solidified.
And you know what else we get that we haven't had in a long time, Anthony?
Yeah.
An abrupt ending.
Yep, indeed.
You gotta love them. But
Good
yeah,
old classic monster movie. You gotta have it.
yep. I would say that it feels more fun than the previous movie. I don't know if it's better though, because the other one had a lot more character building with Demicheli. There was the internal conflict. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel sort of like a parallel to the Universal movies, where like the first couple were a little bit more serious and straightforward, but like had something to, or had development of characters and something to kind of say, and then they just kind of, eventually moved on to just being like, let's have some dumb fun together.
Yeah.
And this did it a lot more quickly just with the two movies.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely the House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula mashup.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
Like it. Yeah.
And yeah, we get flappy bats, we get spinning science wheels, abrupt ending, we get all of the touchstones.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. So.
We get a jokester skeleton. We haven't really had too many of those.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. So, Anthony, where can they find us?
So you can find us on all the socials at the Frankencast, mainly Twitter and Instagram, but you can search for us and find us just about anywhere. We're also on YouTube and Reddit. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com, and you can find us over at patreon.com/thefrankencast.
Yeah.
And I've been lately trying to put into the main feed just some like little previews of what you can expect over there. So if you're curious, but you're not sure if you're ready to dive in,
If you want to test the waters,
you can get some little clips here and there, see what we do over there, and we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Anthony, I think we need to pay a good visit to one of our old friends, to old Lon Chaney Jr.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we need to revisit that time where Dracula was versus Frankenstein.
Yeah, so you might notice a theme here. So the movie we talked about tonight was sometimes known as Dracula versus Frankenstein. So next week we're talking about another movie. This one was only really ever known as Dracula versus Frankenstein
in 1971. So
yeah, it's the one directed by Al Adamson.
It looks like this one's going to have some TNA in it.
Yeah, Al Adamson is definitely known for some like trashy, like regional exploitation drive-in kind of movies. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looks pretty. From the screenshots I'm seeing, this is going to be a hell of a movie.
Yep.
All right, fair. Well, in that case, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.